G'day guys, just want to look at these first 5 races to start at Canterbury. Probably get through them quick because they're pretty nasty. So we caught that big storm sort of came through last night, topped the track up. Problem we're getting at the moment is these tracks are just not drying because they're just so waterlogged. We've seen what Randwick's been like, really testing, hard to come from back and wide just to expend enough energy on these tracks. The Warriors last start, we saw them sort of get to parts of the track that we haven't seen before, and I know that was, far more testing weather, and I doubt that it will play the same, but just that little worry in your brain that it was actually bad to be on the inside at Canterbury their last meeting, and that causes problems for setup, because if it's the same and you need to be sort of in the running line or up in front and out of the kickback, then it causes a few issues. But it shouldn't be that bad. The weather's not been that crazy, and the top up of range should just... You'd expect it to play like a normal Canterbury 6. I expect it to be pretty fair, to be honest. I would imagine that you can win from just about anywhere today, as long as you get tempo to suit. So setting it up with pretty fair in mind. Normal for Canterbury that on pace is a little bit of an advantage, not a long run home there. So just a pretty standard meeting. First race is it for the 2-year-old fillies, and just a race where nothing's set up to win. So you've got a horse at $3.50. Hang on, I'll just check these prices a little bit more updated. Kaitak is it's $3.80 by the look of it. It got beaten a long way in a Group 3 on a heavy track its first start, and never was in the race. It did show some speed in some trials. Can it show a bit more speed here back in grade? It's possible. What's that taken out of it? It's just very hard to back a horse that was never in the race at any start and take short odds about it, even though it's got a huge class drop. And I'm definitely not saying it can't win. I thought the trial of Monfiducia was good enough, as in quiet and just sneaky through the line there, that it could have a bit of ability, and this stable can certainly get them ready for 1200 metres first up off the singular trial. Thought Powderfinger was up against it off one short course trial, and I think it was a synthetic too. Check my notes. Yeah, so it raced a 740 synthetic trial, went okay, but not easy to win over 1200 metres on heavy track off such a light preparation. Boom Boom Baby looks the leader, which gives it a big advantage here. Also, its first start wasn't too bad, worked pretty hard to lead, only beaten 2.5 lengths by Willinga Beast, who came out and ran very well in group company. And then you've got its next start, where it worked very hard outside the leader on that ridiculous day where it was a heavy 12. So forgiving of that, could easily bounce to the front here and put these away easily, but how much is that taken out of it? And the dry of the track certainly looks in favour of Sweet Baby Boom, not that it's going to get much time to dry out. Rip Rose ran in a 1,000 metre open country handicap for 2-year-olds last start, got back out of the race, was never in the race, finished off okay. I think it ran 4th, and it did run 4th, and it rises from 1,000 to 1,200 to make today, drawn the inside gate. Gets James McDonald, can improve, but does need to. Not an easy job, 1,000 to 12, and I don't think this is much easier, even though it wasn't open last time. Maybe marginally, because this is such a bad race, and can entertain it, but there's another horse you couldn't chime into short odds about. So I don't think anything can win the first, but I think Sweet Baby Boom's the one to run down. Let's shut this door. Race 2, very similar in that there's not too many horses here set up well. You've got Chain of Gold, who's 1,000 to 1,200, should come across and sit outside Resonator or possibly lead, though they should control the tempo. Resonator's first up off 200 days with the blinkers off. 2 trials, nothing great about them really. Did chase home a very good horse in Paris Dior last start. There was a gap behind, but nothing else was really pressured, whilst Resonator certainly was. King of Naples was well backed on debut, got a nice track up and was very plain there. Back to the trials 28 days since, and blinkers can be fitter, can improve, but does need to, and I'm not sure where it gets to from the draw there. Possible it could get a nice enough run with the blinkers, but not sure. I thought Political Debates trials were only fair. Lugging Bit goes on, nice draw. James McDonald there, the positives. The trials just not being super standout trials, it makes it difficult to come into it with any sort of Confidence, I thought Shervo could improve. Blinkers off, and a horse that lacks early speed. 34 days between runs is interesting. Just didn't get the tempo to suit it first up and went okay. Another horse that can improve from a good draw. California Choicest. I wasn't taken by each trials and think it needs to improve significantly. Draws awkward too. Hyde's a horse that you could certainly entertain off its first start. Very hard to work out what they've done there. So 2 quiet trials back, and then a third trial over 11.75 where they've jammed it out the gate. So that to me is pretty scary, because it says to me that they were worried about its first 2 trials, and maybe they weren't just super quiet trials, and they wanted to send it in a trial to see how it was going. It's probably ready for 1200 metres first up, so considering it's had those 3 trials, especially the blowout trial last up where it went really quick early and eased up late. Interested to see how they ride it today. I'm not really sure, and it's definitely a query runner with the winkers on for the first time. Can run well. The bottom horse, Vancouver's Crown's got ability for sure. Trialled up really nicely before its first up run. Lacks early speed. Drawn an inside gate. Will need a bit of luck from that draw. It's got Kathy on, and whilst it's got really good ability, very green, still learning, and certainly a knockout runner that can win this race, but needs things to go its way, and also needs to run a strong 1200, which it certainly hasn't proven yet. So a race full of queries. Chain of Gold and Resonator should control the tempo, which makes them the default horses to go to, I think, in the race, but not an easy one. Race 3, Water Fox, quite an interesting horse. So you've got a horse that's sort of $1.85 here, and it ran well with a nice gap behind first up, no doubt. Went out $1.16 in this race, and it sort of settled behind a speed. It was quite a solid tempo. For whatever reason, the leader tried to drop anchor, and then sort of looks like it's got off the bit early. Left in front quite early, takes the front. As I said, it was $1.16 here, and quite plain. Whether it was still having a hangover from the heavy track run on debut first up over 1400. This is it here. Like, this is not a horse you want to be chiming into $1.85 about for mine, but you can make a case for it here. Blinkers on. 31 days between. If you say that it was a bit flat there because of the wet track run, now it gets back onto a surface it has run well on. Is a Group 2 place getter over a mile at Moonee Valley, which just wins this race. That Mokalula form should be good enough to win this maiden. There's nothing standout here, so there's a couple of reasons to like the horse. Just be very wary of the way it sort of was very one-paced and stopped there last start. So blinkers on, tongue tie on. Maybe it got its tongue over the bit. There's nothing in the steward's report to say anything. Reasons why it can improve, because it gets a soft lead here. Blinkers on, 31 days between runs. Does it need to? Absolutely, to justify this price. But what can you find to beat it? Not a lot. Stormy Legend's very honest. 43 days between runs last time when it ran into that heavy track and tried its guts out. That's what it does. A tough horse. Where's it go from the gate? Not sure. You know that Water Fox is going to be in front. I'm not sure where Stormy Legend's going to be. I thought Veneto can improve. I think it's a horse that's pretty one-paced, and it's run into very slow tempos all 3 starts. So it's not crazy one-paced horse. It's just been affected by slow tempos and ridden cold. Can it be ridden a bit closer? I'd love to see that for its chances. Veneto. Who else have we got in this race? Keneally's, improved last start, but never looked like winning. Needs to improve again and getting deep into its first prep. And the rest, to me, I think were pretty well found. I marked them a little bit longer than their price. So think it's about Water Fox here. Back or lay, I'd probably have to lay it at the $1.85, but forced to back something to beat it, I'd be backing Veneto. And that's not to say I'll be doing either in this race. It's just a very ugly little race, and Water Fox does look to get full control. Another tactical affair here, probably the horse to find off form, is Smirk. Very good resuming run. Ran and hit the line nicely. Where's it going to be here? Very likely to be second last. The other horse that's short in the market at $4.20 Enduring is likely to be last. You've got Vittoriosa and probably a Cheerer that go forward. Definitely Vittoriosa, you would say, and just control the tempo completely. Is McDonald smart enough to ride Smirk a little bit more forward? That would certainly change things a little bit. If I was a cheerer, I'd be at least trying to cross Classic Rain, make Vittorios across me, and then set the race up. If I was a McDonald, I'd be giving Smirk a dig out of the gates, because I definitely think it's the horse to beat if it's up there. But if it's back and having to circle them and make a long run up in distance second up, that changes things, and $2.60 is a bit short. I'm expecting it to be ridden a little bit quiet, and I'm expecting Vittoriosa to peak. A little bit plain last time, but only second up and jumped in trip on a heavy track. Achira went into a Group 2, group race, anyone orders a Group 3 maybe, 2,000 metre race last start. Drops back to Phyllis Mare's benchmark 64. That's a huge drop in grade, drops in distance. So if it just didn't run the trip out last start and it gets a soft run on speed here and there's nothing wrong with her, she can run well. 2 starts back, that run just about wins this race, even with the 8 kilos more after the apprentice's claim. So tactical a little race. I thought Miss Madison's not hopeless, and Enduring Night's probably the one I'm happy to take on just because it looks like it's definitely going to be last, and got that inside run last time, even though it did run fast late sections, 8.642 of the day. It was unimpeded, never went round a runner and found the fast lane. So I think it's up against it here with a really poor strike rate. It's the horse I'd have to risk in race 4. Race 5, another tactical affair. So you've got this horse that shouldn't probably be in the race in Tough Case. Country horse with Surge on it, drawn a wide gate, has good speed. So he's likely to get in the way and be used up. You've got a horse like this will be the one who led in solid tempos its first 2 starts and won. First up was ridden quiet and just got really out sprinted. You'd expect them to be ridden, that horse to be ridden more forward. Caboteur got a horrible ride last start at Hawkesbury. Same sort of thing, jumped in front, dragged back and never got into the race. Certainly should be ridden more forward here. Crosses Barrichello. Whether it runs well or not probably affects how Barrichello runs in the race. It's going to be in an awkward position, but you know it handles the going. Nightmare of a horse to follow, but is dangerous here, especially if a bunch of them decide to go forward. Even Global Osbred's probably faced with a decision whether it goes forward or not here, and that'll affect the sort of tempo and the pace in the race. The one that does look to sort of cross into a good position no matter what is Cebus. Really dominant first up on a dry track. Love the way it ran through the line there. Only run on a heavy track was its last run of its last preparation, where it set a fast tempo in front around this circuit over 1900. So not really comparable. You have to be pretty forgiving of it there, considering it ran a fast section. It was its last run of its prep, so it just may have been cooked. And if it settles just behind them here and does anything like it did first up, it's certainly the horse to beat and has to be the one on top, I think, because it's the horse that looks most likely to get the right run, whereas others like this will be the one needs to get the front. If it gets the front, very dangerous, and horses like Caboteur needs to improve. Barrichello needs to have some luck and probably run up to its last run, which is not a certainty here. Global Osbred, I think, needs to get outside leader or lead to show its best. So another tricky race. I'll come back with the later races, especially once I've got a bit more guide on the track. They're not big fields. I'll knock them out, and if I have to adjust them, I'll come back with any adjustments after sort of probably a race or 2. The first race we might not learn a lot, but we'll probably learn how the fence is, and that's the main thing. Thanks, guys. Good luck.